back here in Ottawa, and we're ready for the winter session of Parliament. And this weekend we have a lot going on here. That's why I'm back on a Friday. We have a caucus meeting of the Conservative team with our leader Andrew Scheer, meeting all day long, talking about strategy, talking about policy and issues. And then this weekend we're actually doing campaign training. We have the Victory School for all our candidates and campaign managers, and we're getting ready for October 21st, 2019, so that we can defeat this corrupt and unethical Liberal government under Justin Trudeau. Now, in my portfolio, of course, on defense and all the work that I'm doing, representing our constituents and private members bill, I'm going to be driving a number of issues as we get back into session here this winter. Of course, one of the big things on the defense file is missile defense, and we are going to be pushing the Liberals that they should be doing the right thing, which is to bring in ballistic missile defense as part of the Canadian defense policy. But of course, the Liberals under Trudeau completely have vacated this responsibility. They're leaving it to the Americans to defend Canadian territory. And Andrew Scheer and I and our Conservative caucus has been saying that Canada needs to be part of missile defense. It needs to be part of the NORAD mandate. And when we form government, we will sign on to BMD. Now, as we continue on down this, we're going to be rolling out policy, and we want to make sure that we can deal with it. Now, the one thing that's coming up very quick in the session is my private members bill that I'm sponsoring and bringing forward, Bill C-266, which is respecting the Families of Brutalized Victims Act. Now, I originally brought forward this bill back in 2012, almost got it through Parliament, and I got appointed as Parliamentary Secretary, and I wasn't allowed to have any of my own bills before the Chamber, even though it was already at committee. And then my colleague at the time, Colin Mays, then brought forward the bill, and same thing, got it through committee and back into the House just before the House was adjourned for the 2015 election. So never had a chance to bring it forward. And so we are here 3 years in, is that finally my name has come up in the draw to bring forward my private members bill to make sure that we are saving the families of where their loved ones have been brutally abducted, raped, and murdered in often very sadistic manners, from having to go to all these different parole board hearings over and over again, starting at year 23 when these people get their life sentences. And so we're talking about people like Paul Bernardo, Russell Williams, Clifford Olson, and Robert Pickton. These people almost never ever get parole. They are incarcerated for life. And if they're incarcerated for life and are a threat to society and are high risk people for reoffending and committing these brutal sadistic crimes, parole board always keeps them in jail. They got a life sentence, and they're only eligible for parole at year 23. So what I'm trying to do in Bill C-266 is to make sure that the families don't have to be re-victimized when they go before the parole board hearing and read their victim impact statements starting at year 23 and reliving the horrifying death of their loved ones, that would be pushed back to year 40 and give that discretion to the courts, whether it's a judge or by jury. They can make the decision on whether or not we actually have to put the families through this ongoing re-victimization by those sadistic killers who just really want to relive the terrible murders that they committed. Now, the next thing that I'll be also pushing for, especially this coming week, is how the access to information cover-up that's been going on over at the Department of National Defense. Of course, Minister Harjit Sajjan has set the example of being unethical, of calling himself the architect, and has not been transparent in a number of different issues. And so by setting such a low bar, we're now seeing it percolate into the department. And just so we've already seen the department hang on to information surrounding the Vice Admiral Mark Norman case and not turning over files and documents to the lawyers and to the media who have been trying to get access to them. And essentially it was again a cover-up. And then we just had come to light last week that the Judge Advocate General was part of a cover-up on bringing forward a study that was done about the military judicial system and how the court-martial system has been working in the Canadian Armed Forces. Now, this has to be corrected, because you got to, first and foremost, if you're going to run a democracy, the people that should respect that democracy and accountability and transparency the most is the Department of National Defense. And they got to make sure that they are being respectful and that they're following the rule of law, and that's not happening in this case. Now, the next issue that I want to cover is this whole boondoggle that's been happening around the Huawei fiasco. You know, we definitely don't, in my opinion, don't want Huawei in Canada as part of our 5G network that's being put out for tender, the whole new higher speed internet systems and broadband and cell service. Because Huawei has already been described by the United States, by Britain, by Australia, New Zealand, and others as a threat to our own national security, and there's no way that they should have access to Canada. Now, the problem that we have with Huawei right now is that Trudeau has okayed the arrest of the chief financial officer for Huawei, Ms. Ming, and of course, she's being held here, and we are waiting for the extradition orders to come from the United States and the court process to take place. And it all revolves around them violating sanctions with Iran over the last number of years. The real sad part of this is that John McCallum, you know, former minister in the Trudeau government, former member of Parliament, I know John quite well, here he is as ambassador now to China, pronouncing himself on a number of legal matters surrounding Ms. Ming's case. There should never, ever be political interference on any issue that's before the courts. That's why we have the separation of the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch in a democracy. And John McCallum, trying to pander to the Chinese government and practicing appeasement, has really stepped in it, in my opinion. And Andrew Scheer has called for his resignation, and if Trudeau won't fire him, then John McCallum should resign. Now, we shouldn't be surprised that Trudeau isn't trying to fire, you know, John McCallum, because we also have to remember that Trudeau himself has politically interfered in the court case of Vice Admiral Mark Norman on a number of occasions, has talked publicly that Mark Norman will be charged and then prosecuted in the court of law. So again, Trudeau set just a terrible example, so no wonder John McCallum felt that he had free license to go out there and speculate on a matter before the courts. And finally, what we just saw again this week is that the illegal border crossers are coming into Manitoba from Minnesota and North Dakota, and what we're seeing coming in from upstate New York into Quebec has turned into human trafficking. And because of Justin Trudeau's careless tweet saying "Welcome to Canada" to all these illegal border crossers, it's actually opened the door for having people capitalize. These human traffickers are profiteering from these illegal border crossers because of Justin Trudeau. So this has to stop, and the only ones that will ever take care of this matter is the Conservatives, and that's why we have to get elected in October of 2019. So I'm asking for your support. I'm asking you to get out there and be engaged with your friends, families, and neighbors. And of course, we're going to be holding Trudeau to account when we get rolling in the new chamber in the House of Commons here in Ottawa come Monday morning. We'll see you soon.